Right now, you can touch a switch and erase the dark. You do not have to negotiate with it. You do not have to wait for your eyes to adjust. You do not have to listen to the walls, wonder what is moving outside, or gather close to another breathing body just to feel safe. You press a button. A room fills with light. Or maybe you do not even reach for the switch anymore. Maybe you lie in bed with the phone glowing inches from your face, scrolling through a world that never truly becomes night. The ceiling is dark, but your hand is lit. The room is quiet, but your mind is crowded. A screen gives you faces, voices, color, motion, weather, messages, strangers, music, news, fear, comfort, all without asking you to stand up. It feels normal. But for most of human history, this little miracle did not exist. There was no switch beside the door, no lamp on the table, no streetlight outside the shelter, no emergency flashlight, no locked apartment glowing blue in the dark. When the sun disappeared, the world did not simply become dim. It became another place. Imagine the same moment, but thousands of generations ago. The light falls out of the sky, and there is no way to bring it back with a gesture. The air cools. Shapes lose their edges. Trees become black masses. Rocks become crouching animals. Every sound grows larger because vision has begun to fail. A crack in the brush is no longer just a crack. It might be wind. It might be an animal. It might be nothing. But your body cannot afford to assume it is nothing. There are no walls thick enough to make the night harmless. No police. No hospital. No phone call. No glass window between your skin and the outside world. If a child cries, the sound travels. If someone is injured, the group must decide what can be done with hands, teeth, plant knowledge, and memory. If the fire weakens, somebody has to feed it. If the cold enters, everybody feels it. Darkness was not just the absence of light. Darkness was uncertainty. It was cold. It was distance. It was vulnerability. It was the moment when the human body became more alert to everything it could not see. So here's the question most people never think to ask. What did ancient humans actually do when darkness fell? Before electricity, before lamps, before locked rooms, before glowing screens? The answer is not just about fire. It changes how we think about fear, sleep, storytelling, loneliness, and the strange way modern life has separated us from one of the oldest human experiences, being together in the dark. Ancient humans did not merely survive the night by making flames. They transformed darkness into a human space. Around fire, fear became shared. Memory became story. The body found warmth. The group found a center. And night, which could have scattered the mind into panic, became a time when people looked at one another's faces and remembered who they were. Modern light gives us control over night, but it may also have replaced something older than comfort. Most people imagine ancient humans as desperate creatures crouched in caves, waiting for morning, barely intelligent enough to stay alive. The picture is familiar. Frightened bodies, crude tools, empty minds, a hard life with no room for imagination. In that version, fire is only a survival trick, a useful accident, a primitive lamp, a way to scare animals and cook meat. But that picture is too small. Archaeology tells a stranger story. Fire was not just a thing ancient humans used. It became a place, a schedule, a social center, a source of heat, light, food, protection, and meaning. It changed where bodies gathered. It changed what could be done after sunset. It changed the kinds of conversations people could have when the day's work was over and the face of the other person was flickering in orange light. This does not mean ancient life was peaceful. It was not. The night could still be dangerous. Hunger still returned. Children still died. Wounds still mattered. Cold still entered bone. But ancient humans were not passive victims of the dark. They answered it. And the answer was not just flame. One of the most important traces comes from Wondervik Cave in South Africa. There, researchers found evidence of burned bone and ashed plant remains inside deep Acheulean layers of the cave, suggesting fire was used in place roughly 1,000,000 years ago. That matters because a wildfire outside a cave can burn a landscape. Lightning can blacken wood. But microscopic evidence inside a cave points to something more intimate. Fire brought into a human space, held there, used there, remembered there. Picture that cave, not as a cartoon of primitive life, but as a real shelter with real bodies inside it. The light does not flood the walls evenly. It moves. It breathes. It throws shadows against stone. A face appears, disappears, appears again. Bone cracks. Smoke gathers. Someone watches the edge of the dark beyond the flame. This kind of evidence does not let us know exactly what people said, or how they felt, or what stories they told. We cannot put words in their mouths. But the pattern is revealing. A fire inside a shelter means the night was being altered. It means the dark was no longer accepted as total. It means ancient humans were beginning to carry a piece of daylight into the hours when the world became uncertain. That detail matters, because once you can hold light in one place, you can organize life around it. Much later, at Qasem Cave in Israel, archaeologists identified evidence for repeated use of a central hearth around 300,000 years ago. The hearth was not just a random burn mark. It was a recurring center in an occupied space, surrounded by traces of activity. Think about what that means. A hearth in the center of a cave is not just heat. It is architecture without walls. It tells people where to sit, where to work, where to bring food, where children can remain close, where tools can be repaired, where the group can see itself. Before cities, before temples, before kitchens, before living rooms, the fire circle may have been one of the first human rooms. Not built from bricks, built from attention. The fire pulls every eye toward the same place. It makes the group face inward. It gives the night a shape. And when a group faces inward long enough, something more than survival can happen. People can compare memories. They can warn one another. They can tease, comfort, plan, sing, mourn, and imagine. Fire did not only light the world, it gathered the mind. But the real story becomes even more human when we look at living hunter-gatherer societies, carefully and cautiously, not as fossils of the past, but as windows into possibilities. Anthropologist Polly Wisner studied firelight talk among the Juhwansi of southern Africa. Her research compared day and nighttime conversations and found a striking shift. During the day, talk often centered on practical matters, economic issues, complaints, and social regulation. At night, around firelight, conversation more often moved into stories, memories, relationships, ritual themes, and the wider imaginative world. That should stop you for a moment. The same people, the same voices, but a different light, a different time, a different emotional atmosphere. And the conversation changes. By day, life demands decisions. Who needs food? Who did what? What must be repaired? What tension must be handled before it damages the group? By night, the pressure loosens. The work of the day fades. The fire reduces the size of the world to the people close enough to hear. In that circle, speech can become less about immediate survival and more about the invisible things that hold a group together. Stories are not decoration. In a dangerous world, stories are memory systems. They carry rules, warnings, identity, humor, grief, reputation, and hope. A story can teach a child what not to touch. It can preserve the memory of a place. It can explain why a person should be generous, brave, careful, patient, or ashamed. It can turn fear into something the group can hold together. Now imagine doing that with no writing, no books, no calendar, no camera, No saved messages. Memory had to live in bodies, in voices, in repetition, in the emotional charge of a story told when the light was low and everyone was listening. This sounds simple. It is not. A group sitting around a fire is doing something neurologically and socially powerful. They are sharing attention. Their bodies are receiving warmth from the same source. Their eyes are adjusting to the same rhythm. Their fear is no longer private. It is distributed across the circle. A sound outside the firelight does not belong to one person alone. Everyone hears it. Everyone pauses. Everyone returns. That is how fear changes when it becomes social. Your nervous system was not built to process darkness as an isolated individual in a sealed room with a glowing rectangle. It was shaped by conditions where the safest place at night was near other people, where the body of the group became part of your own protection. One person might fall asleep. Another might stir. Someone might wake to feed the fire. Someone might hear an animal before it came close. The group was not just company. The group was technology. And fire made that technology visible. Of course, ancient nights were not endless storytelling sessions. People slept. They shifted. They woke. They endured cold and heat and insects and discomfort. But the evidence from modern pre-industrial societies complicates our assumptions about natural sleep. A study of 3 pre-industrial groups, the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Tsimane in Bolivia, found that sleep did not simply begin at sunset. On average, sleep started several hours after sunset, and sleep timing was strongly tied to temperature and environmental conditions. That is important because it suggests ancient night was not just a sudden collapse into sleep. There was an interval, a human interval. After the sun went down, before sleep took over, there was time. Time too dark for daytime work, but not empty. Time when firelight could stretch the usable day. Time when people could sit, talk, repair, listen, flirt, argue softly, remember the dead, and teach the young what the daylight alone could not teach. The modern bedroom often makes sleep private. Ancient night was more communal. Not always gentle, not always comfortable, but shared. And your body still carries pieces of that older night. Darkness changes the brain. Uncertainty increases vigilance. When visual information drops, sound becomes more important. Ambiguous shapes feel more threatening. Research on fear responses suggests that nighttime or darkness can intensify reactions to fearful stimuli. That does not mean humans are irrational for fearing the dark. It means the body is doing what bodies were shaped to do. The dark hides information, so the nervous system fills the gap with caution. Fire changes that equation. It gives the eyes a center. It gives the skin warmth. It marks a boundary between the known and the unknown. It does not eliminate danger, but it makes danger easier to locate. The flame says, here is the group. Here is the warm place. Here is the visible circle. Here is where your body can lower its guard a little. And then there is light itself. Modern sleep science shows that light is not just something we see by. It is a signal to the body. Exposure to light helps regulate circadian rhythms, sleep, alertness, and mood. Morning light can help advance the biological clock. Evening and night light can delay it. Artificial light, especially at the wrong time, can confuse the ancient timing system that still lives behind your eyes. This is where the story turns back toward you. Because your brain did not evolve under ceiling LEDs, streetlights, and phone screens. For most of human history, night carried a message. Darkness told the body that the day was ending. Fire gave a softer, warmer, more limited light. Enough to gather, not enough to turn midnight into afternoon. The flame extended the day without destroying the night. Modern light does something different. It can erase the boundary completely. You can sit alone at 1 a.m. in a room bright enough to trick your body, with a screen bright enough to keep your mind moving, receiving signals from people who are not present, threats that are not immediate, desires that cannot be satisfied, and stories that do not belong to your group. The body hears light and thinks, "Stay awake." The mind hears silence and thinks, "Where is everyone?" This is one of the quiet tragedies of modern comfort. We solved the ancient danger of darkness, and that is a real achievement. Electric light protects us. It lets hospitals function. It lets people read, study, work, travel, care for children, respond to emergencies, and feel safe in places where darkness once carried serious risk. Modern light is not the enemy, but every technology solves one problem by changing the shape of another. Ancient humans had less control, but more contact. Less comfort, but more shared attention. Less information, but more silence. Fewer private choices, but clearer night rituals. More danger, but fewer invisible signals arriving endlessly from outside the circle of real life. When darkness fell, they could not escape into private brightness. They had to gather. They had to notice one another. They had to become a group again. That does not make ancient life better. It makes it instructive. Because the ache many modern people feel at night is not always just insomnia. It is not always just boredom. Sometimes it is the old body entering the old hours and finding that the circle is gone. The room is lit, but nobody is beside the fire. The real lesson is not that ancient humans lacked technology, so they used fire. The real lesson is that fire was technology of a kind we barely recognize anymore. It was light. It was heat. It was protection. It was cooking. It was a clock. It was a meeting place. It was a screen before screens, but one that made people look at each other instead of away from each other. It was not primitive. It was complete. A single flame could change food, temperature, visibility, mood, time, danger, memory, and social life. It could make the night longer without making it lonely. It could turn fear into attention, attention into story, and story into belonging. Modern light defeated darkness, but it also dissolved the ancient circle that darkness once created. Now go back to the switch. The next time you enter a dark room and press it, notice how quickly the old world disappears. 1 second, your body is preparing for uncertainty. The next, the room is obedience. Corners return. Walls return. Objects return. You are safe in a way your ancestors would have understood as almost supernatural. That is worth gratitude. But then, look at your phone at night. Look at the small private fire in your hand. It glows, but it does not warm you. It shows faces, but it does not put bodies beside you. It gives you stories, but not always belonging. It keeps you awake, but not always connected. A switch can brighten a room. It cannot recreate the ancient human night. It cannot give you the smell of smoke in your hair, the murmur of familiar voices, the shared pause when something moves beyond the firelight, the comfort of knowing that your fear is not yours alone. It cannot give you the old circle. And maybe that is why modern night can feel so strange. Not because we are afraid of the dark in the old way, but because we have filled the dark with light and still feel something missing. Your ancestors did not just survive darkness. They humanized it. They took the cold edge of night and placed a fire at its center. Around that fire, they built warmth, memory, warning, laughter, grief, attention, and trust. We did not lose the need. We changed the environment around it. The technology changed. The body did not. Somewhere inside you, there is still an ancient nervous system waiting for the night to mean return, waiting for the faces to gather, waiting for the story to begin. You are not separate from those people. You are what survived the dark.